Yep, we're back. I hope you missed us because we had 4 days off without a show. It's Wednesday. It's February 19th. This is the DLS Dallas Stars podcast. And after a weekend, which we all didn't know what to do with ourselves, and then 2 more days off, here we are. From, well, my screen might be different from the others, but we're remote today. Our general manager, Ben, was a little concerned about all the shows having to drive if the weather and the roads conditions were hazardous. They weren't, but that's okay. So instead of being in studio with our guest, we actually get to have Sam on because Sam wasn't going to be on the show today. So alongside Craig Ludwig, Sam
now
Nessler,
I have to stop saying
and me, it is our esteemed pleasure to welcome on our guest today, Leah Assimakopoulos. Go ahead, Sam, go for it. She is the beat writer for the Dallas Morning News.
Get ready, boys.
Leah, I was going to make the obvious joke and have Sam try to spell it or pronounce it, but you've heard all of those way too many times. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. I would love to see Sam try to spell it. That would be fun.
Lads, we're not just teasing you. We go after Sam just as much.
I have it in front of me. It's because I figured this was
all
coming.
I know is it starts with a good, her last name starts with 3 good letters.
See, that's right up Luddy's alley. I love it.
Leah, I have one question before Owen takes off here and never shuts up again. Did you know that 30-second open that we just did? Did you get a chance to watch that? Is there anything that you noticed in that open by any chance? Anything that stood out to you?
I don't think I was paying close enough attention.
Well, you're doing well on this show then. Okay. I just wanted you to notice that there's only one Stars fan for about 0.5 seconds in the whole open.
Is that new? Because I thought we had nothing there.
No, they've got one Stars fan in the very second thing you see.
This is obsessed with this.
Yes, he
Mark Janko, our assistant general manager, spotted it right away though. So.
Yeah, he is a PR guy. So,
take over.
All right, we are going to take this one over. And Luddy, I promise we're going to talk a lot of hockey as we did with Jenks, that we want to do a little background and then we'll throw everything Stars and Four Nations at Leah and we can talk hockey to beat the band. And by the way, I have a list of some great Diehard only exclusive questions that they submitted for Leah and some good ones in there, including one that Leah's heard before and controversial, but we will get to that toward the end of our hour-long show today. So Leah, I wanted to start with a little background of yours because for people that have followed your work at the Dallas Morning News but don't necessarily know how you got there, you are a DC area native from, I believe, Bethesda, Maryland, although you commonly say I'm from DC. Is that just because people don't know Bethesda if they're not from that area?
Yeah, I went to high school in DC and grew up 10 minutes outside of it. And unless you spent time in the DC area, you probably don't know Bethesda, Maryland. It's a small suburb right outside DC. So I say DC, but it's kind of like most cities. People get mad if you say you're from DC when you're not. But DC area, DMV, we'll call it.
Yeah, Luddy, there's no way you could describe where you live and you just say Dallas, right? There's no way anybody knows outside of the area where we are in the various spots around the Metroplex.
I just say the hood where I'm at.
I don't even know where Luds lives.
That's okay. He won't invite us anyway. It's fine. So you grew up in DC, and then as we fast forward, you went to the very highly esteemed journalism school known as Medill at Northwestern. That's not obviously very impressive. Did you know that that's where you wanted to go? Was that your top choice? Because, I mean, obviously Northwestern is one of the premier journalism schools in the country.
Yeah, I did. The fall of 2018 or whatever, 2017 was like the worst few months of my life, not knowing if I was going to get into Northwestern or not. So, yes, I was very much wanted to go there. I knew I wanted to do journalism since like early on in high school. So it's a great school, great journalism program, and kind of wanted to get away from the East Coast and see somewhere new, which I did in college. I did it again on post-grad coming to Dallas. So yes, knew I wanted to go to Northwestern and it kind of worked out for me. It's a great place to be for journalism and Big Ten sports too.
And when you have Chicago winters,
Yes.
I'm sure that a day like today in Dallas, where the wind chill is down, hovering below 0, it brings back a lot of memories of your time up there in the Windy City.
Yeah, I thought that I got away from that. That was part of the reason coming down here, and not on a day like today when it's 2 degrees or feels like 2 degrees outside. But yeah, you get used to it. I feel like it builds character just like the Texas summers do. But we had some cold days. We had the polar vortex my freshman year, so it was like -50 after wind chill, and we canceled classes for the first time in like 100 years because they said if you went outside for too long, your eyeballs would freeze. So that's fun.
Luddy, I imagine that you've had some days in Wisconsin that are similar to that.
Yes, but I've had worse days at the University of North Dakota.
Oh, there we go.
Mm.
Yeah.
They're minus, it gets -50s, 60s with the wind chill there. I actually had one of them times my car ran out of gas too. I had to walk probably 2 miles to get back to the campus.
I'm sure you had all the proper coats, hats, and gloves and everything.
No, you know what? They had warnings because what they have there is they don't have dirt and snow storms. They have snert, and it's a mixture, and it's a mixture of dirt and snow. Because I mean, there's really no snowbanks because everything blows away. So you get a lot of dirt mixed into it, and so they would have warnings on TV a lot of times at night on their news channels not to go outside. There was actually an elderly woman when I was there at school. It had to be that one rare time I was actually there. Was you don't go outside your house. Like, don't go outside because you won't be able to see. She went to take her garbage out, and unfortunately, they found her the next morning. Probably, I think if I remember right, it was 15 to 20 feet from her house. The house light was on. You couldn't see it. She just got, because again, it's like a blizzard out there. Just the wind that's blowing the dirt, and it's dark. It's dark, like dark snow, with dirty snow that blows around.
Oh,
Good advertisement for going to college there.
Yeah, everybody loves it there. I mean, the bars make
Stay indoors.
Yeah.
Leah, when you went to Northwestern, did you know that sports was the angle that you were going for?
Yeah, I figured that out pretty early on in high school. I was always really into sports, played a lot of sports growing up. My dad kind of forced me to be a sports fan, and whether I wanted to or not, and now I'm grateful for it. But I kind of knew that going into college, and felt like there was a lot of opportunity to do that at Northwestern. Northwestern sports have been very up and down, but when I was there, they were great. So it was a good couple of years to go. So I thought about maybe doing things outside of sports, but kind of just fell into that path and never really looked back after that.
Hey, Luddy, we got a chat from Talk Hockey with me. Kind of like being in Lubbock, it rains mud there.
Yeah, same thing.
Boy, you never know what you're going to get here at the Dlls Stars podcast. So, Leah, looking at some of your bio history, you have previously contributed. I'm actually reading this right from the Dallas Morning News, Sports Illustrated, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and NBC Sports. So my question to you is, any interesting details about how you got there from Northwestern and how you ended up with the Morning News in Dallas?
Yeah, so those were all internships and kind of part-time gigs in college for the most part. I got pretty lucky with getting out of school and ending up here. A lot of my classmates did not have jobs coming out of school. I was a couple years removed from COVID, but it was still a little bit of a weird time finding jobs. But I accepted my job at the DMN in February of my senior year and kind of knew I was going to move down here right after graduating. I had met my editor at a career fair, like a virtual career fair during COVID, and we just kept in touch, and they had an opening covering high school sports. And I had spent like 4 days in Texas ever before moving, and only like 2 in Dallas after getting the offer. So I'd been to like San Antonio and Austin, and that was kind of it. So it was a little bit of we're going to just try this and see how it goes. And I said, I'll do it for 2 years and move back home. And now we're at 2.5 and I'm still here. So started covering high school sports, and then, over time picked up some other things. Stars, obviously. I do college sports as well, and then dropped the high schools. So it's kind of how we ended up here.
Was it Dallas, or was it simply a job working for a newspaper in sports that was your main focus coming out of college?
That getting a job at a good newspaper. You know, I knew it was going to either be covering a small college in a small town in the South, or, you know, covering high school somewhere. And I was excited about the chance to come to Dallas, which is, I've always lived in a big city, so I was a little scared about moving to a small town in SEC country. So, you know, high school sports wasn't what I thought I would be doing. I didn't know a lot about Texas high school football, but kind of got adopted into that culture pretty quickly and really loved it. It was a great way to kind of get my feet wet and learn a lot about journalism early on. So, and, you know, DMN does a great job with their high school sports coverage. They invest a lot in it. So, yeah.
So when you got to Dallas, you weren't doing hockey yet.
No.
You had done, I'm guessing, especially basketball and football at Northwestern, but probably some other sports as well. Were you surprised when the morning news approached you about the Stars, and how much hockey did you feel comfortable with?
So, yeah, so Northwestern doesn't have a hockey team. So I think I would have done a lot more hockey had they had a hockey team. But yeah, it was basketball, football. I did a lot of field hockey, which is nothing like hockey. But I played that growing up. So yeah, basically the spring, it was the Western Conference Finals run in 2023. It was pretty much a little bit of a mess at the DMN. Matt DeFranks had left. We didn't really have anyone to replace him. Joe Hoyt, who now works for you all at the time,
Our boy Joe.
pitched in to cover the Stars, and Chuck Carlton, the late Chuck Carlton as well. Really sad, difficult time for our newsroom when he passed away during that playoff run. So kind of just needed somebody to help. And I think they had come to a couple of the high school reporters, knowing none of us really covered hockey, because obviously we don't have high school hockey in the UIL either. And I said, I'll do it. Like, I grew up a Caps fan. I watched a lot of hockey. Very different watching hockey as a fan when I'm, you know, in high school versus covering it full time, but I understood it a little more than maybe some of my colleagues who grew up in the South, or what, I don't know, whatever. So they pretty much just needed someone to do it. So I said I would. I did very little in that first playoff run. It was like only covering the Western Conference Finals home games pretty much, and it wasn't a great series for Dallas, and they lost to Vegas. And then the next year came around. There was a lot of questions of, are we going to cover the Stars? What's it going to look like? And then about like 3 or 4 days before the season, they said, we want you to do it. So I missed camp, kind of just started watching a lot of hockey. I watched literally like Hockey for Dummies videos on YouTube, which I still feel like I'm trying to learn, because I
think Lud still watches those.
Yeah.
Well, hang on a second. As I'm watching this, she's sitting right between two of them anyway, so she's
true.
And yeah, kind of just have been learning as I've gone along. And, you know, the Stars beat's great. Like, there's a lot of really good supportive people. Like Sod really helped me a lot early on. Mike, you know, all of you guys have. So it's learning as we go. And now in my second season, it's, you know, much easier. But no, I did not move to Texas thinking I would be covering hockey. That was not in the plans, but I'm glad that that's how it's worked out.
Hey, Leah, how did it shift? I know that when Matt left, it was originally, I had heard that it was going to be hockey baseball, and then it was hockey college. How did that shift kind of happen?
Yeah, so it was going to be hockey baseball. And there was actually a posting for it. Like, they were kind of working on recruiting for that, and then just kind of stopped. And I don't really remember why. I don't remember why, but anyways, that didn't happen. I think they probably realized that hockey and baseball is not exactly a combination that works so well.
Yeah.
Baseball's a tough one to pair something else with. So, and then it ended up just being hockey in high school for me. And I was kind of ready to move on from high schools, and we didn't have anyone covering college sports last season once Joe had left and Chuck had passed. So we needed somebody else to do that. And I love college sports. So I was, you know, very open to doing that. And I think people kind of ask a lot of, oh, you know, you want to do just Stars? Like, wouldn't you love to just do that? And of course, but like, I love covering college sports too. I feel like it's tough being, you know, 1 foot in, 1 foot out in both, but like, I get the best of both worlds too. Like, hockey and college football are two of my favorite things to cover. So that's kind of how it ended up. It was, you know, at first them wanting to split the beat, and then me saying like, this is something that I can do. We kind of knew once DeFranks left, it wasn't going to be a full-time beat anymore.
Leah, you know, I think is only speaking for hockey players. I think we always feel like we're different. different athletes. Do you notice a difference when you're talking to basketball or baseball players versus hockey players in the way they go about their interviews, or is it harder, easier with them, or what do you find the difference maybe?
That's a good question.
That's
I
all I
mean,
ask on the show. I don't get to ask a lot what they're
no, I mean, I think that's a good point. I do feel a difference, and I think maybe a lot of it is just the international aspect of it. Like a lot of the basketball players and the football players that I talked to had a very similar path to wherever they are, whatever, to come into SMU. It's Dallas kids, it's kids that played in the United States, went to similar tournaments, but with hockey, it's yes, there may be similar tournaments they're playing in at an international level, but some are coming from the US, some are coming from Canada, some are coming from overseas. It's just a little more of a variety in terms of the people that I feel like we interact with. It's just, SMU has a couple international players this year, and I feel that with them too. But I don't know. And maybe it's just because it's stars versus college, and the college guys are still kind of learning what the media is like and how to interact. But I feel like the conversations that we have in the Stars locker room are authentic, a little more laid back, especially with the guys that have been around a lot, like a Matt Duchene. It feels like you're talking to a person a little more than just an interview or a press conference or whatever it is in the college space. And that's why locker room access is great. So hopefully that keeps going.
Buddy, you want to talk some Dallas Stars hockey here on the show?
Well, I could talk more today, or
Would you like to?
sure.
All right, let's
What do
do
we
it
got?
next. Let's do it right next here on the DLS Stars podcast.
Sleeper is the best fantasy platform out there, period. Put your ball or puck knowledge to the test by picking whether your favorite or least favorite player will have more or less in their projected stats each week. We can't put our puck knowledge to the test because there's still no hockey available, but we're getting there. We're getting close. So instead, I'm going to keep with my NBA expertise. I'm going to do a really easy pick here, and I apologize. I'm not trying to troll Mavs fans. I really am not, but it was too easy of a pick to go with. I got Luka Doncic from the Los Angeles Lakers. If he gets a single point tonight against Charlotte, you win 1.77 times your money. Too easy. With Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. If you think you have what it takes, new users can download the Sleeper app and use the code DLS Stars to get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest. Apply it to any contest, doesn't have to be your first. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Eye contact.
Well, you may not be trying to troll anyone, but I do. Sorry, Luds. Let's talk about Shady Rays. Shady Rays is simply one of the best quality shades on the market. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. They're an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor activities. These are the Lagoon Aviators, and they are tangle-free. So if you have long hair like Leah does, guess what? If you put them on top of your head, they won't get snagged. It's a very nice feature. I don't have to worry about the long hair so much, but still, exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out the best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com, use the code DLLS for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. There he is. I knew he wasn't going to sit idly by while I troll him with the sunglasses. Luddy,
you got those from our sponsor too, eh?
What the heck are you wearing?
This is my Bears hat. Not Chicago Bears, my bear over here. That's got Vinny's guitar and his drum and Dime's guitar and bag and everything.
You took that off a stuffed animal?
Yeah, I did, actually.
God, I love you.
It looks like you crashed into a Christmas tree and took some of the tinsel with you.
I think it was supposed to be. Kim ordered this online. I think it was supposed to be a Christmas thing.
Yeah, nice. I like it. Well, it's kind of a green thing. So, all right, Luds, let's let you have first tee off the opening hole of this Dallas Stars segment with our special guest, Leah. Let's talk some hockey.
Leo, why don't you tell me who's going to be back in the lineup? Is it going to be Miro Heiskanen or Tyler Seguin? Who comes in the lineup first? And do they make it into the lineup before the regular season ends?
I think the majority thinks it's going to be Miro Heiskanen and is hoping it's at the end of the regular season. I don't. I know that Jim has been pretty optimistic about it, and the messaging has been pretty positive, but like now we're in this weird like dead period where we're going to hear nothing until he's just back. We're going to keep asking for updates and not get them. I want to say I think it's going to be Tyler, but also we haven't heard a whole lot about him. So I feel like neither comes back in the regular season. We know Tyler's not at this point. I think you hope they're both back early in the playoffs, but I think you just need to be prepared to go without either of them.
Leo, trust your instincts.
I trust my instincts. I mean, you have in-season surgery, and I don't care what it is. I just feel like it's hard to expect someone to be back in April.
And do you agree, Leah? I think that the other thing is, even if, let's say, Miro Heiskanen is ready 10 days before the end of the regular season, is that even worth it?
No.
Especially if you're going to go use that money.
Right. And especially if you look at kind of how the playoff race is shaking up. And yes, we know the Central Division usually comes down to the last few games, but it feels like this year it's less so, and Winnipeg's kind of controlling. And, maybe it's a question of whether the Stars have home ice advantage or not in the first round. But if they know they're probably going to Minnesota at that point, yeah, why? If you can use the money, like you might as well I feel like that's a more valuable decision in the short term. And, if you get Miro and Tyler back in the playoffs, that makes you a completely different team.
That's an interesting thing that Luddy brought up is Miro's injury is obviously more, I guess the word would be questionable in the sense, or I think there's a level of uncertainty because you don't know exactly the degree of it. Now, if somebody does, because he went and had surgery, but I feel like with Tyler, it's pretty straightforward for a massive surgery on his hip is that, it seems like they've been reporting that things are going on schedule, but it's early and they don't want to put any kind of a target on it. Miro's really, you have a knee injury like that. You just don't know how you're going to respond. I feel like with a hip surgery, essentially, that the pain is going to go away. The question is, how quickly can you get up to speed? But with a knee, it doesn't always come back the way you want it to. And I'm sure you see that covering SMU football as well.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up. Like I feel like watching Miro's injury look the exact same as this one SMU player. There's like star tight end RJ Maryland, same thing. Like someone lunged into his knee, it bent in backwards, and he tore his ACL. And obviously that could have happened to Miro on that play. But like I watched the Miro play and I thought like this is the same thing. It looks the exact same. And you mean to tell me one of those players might not even be ready for next season, and RJ Maryland and Miro's going to be ready in a month and a half or 2 months? I don't know. I mean, I think I've said this the whole time. It's encouraging that they're not ruling either of these guys out. Like it could have been very easy to say the same thing they said about Lundqvist. They're just done. But of course you want to have them back. But I don't know. I'm not banking on it.
I think to button up the Miro thing, if you see them use his LTIR, if they move him to use that space before the deadline, which is still a couple of weeks away, obviously we know that will mean he's not coming back. Jim Nilwyn, I believe he told Sean in a conversation, and I think he's done a couple different places, sounded optimistic that he hoped Miro could play some regular season games. But yeah. Sam, you mentioned this too. If he's, toward the end of the year, if you can use the LTIR and really bolster your team, again, it's another question if they have the assets. I think that might be worth over him playing one regular season game.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking is even if he could come back for a week and play 3 or 4 games, I don't think that makes enough of a difference. It's one thing if he can come back and play 3 weeks and really get up to speed and hit the ground running in the playoffs. But for him to come back 1 week, maybe 10 days, I don't think it's enough help. And we're looking at a league again where now Shea Theodore, Vegas may be using him on an LTIR after his injury in the Four Nations. Like you have to make your team better. And Owen brought up a good point. They are running out of options to trade to bring in players. But I think that this type of situation, I said it on the show multiple times, they are too all in this year to risk anything. And if they go into the playoffs thinking 1 injury or 2 injuries can really ruin this, they need to add.
Mm-hmm. So my next question is, Leah, when we both watched practice today over in Frisco, and one of the things that actually was encouraging, we don't want it to be all doom and gloom, is the fact that there were actually positives as far as a guy that we laughed about seeing an Instagram hiking video or picture in California, but then not playing, in Ilya Lyubushkin, and amongst some visor bubble shield adjustments. So there are some healthy bodies, even if Miro and Tyler aren't close.
Yeah, I mean, they needed a break. Like there's been a lot of little injuries here and there, and came at the right time. Yes, Lyubushkin's been practicing the last couple of days. You mentioned the bubble updates. Dumba doesn't have his bubble anymore, and Mason Marchman's wearing some kind of weird makeshift bubble. It looks like a bubble with holes. I don't know. He's still wearing something, but obviously healing. And I think Matt Duchene said that he's also in good shape now after his nose and his visor situation. I don't remember what he was wearing at the time, but yeah, I mean, obviously the major injuries are the major injuries, but you want to have a break for this exact reason. So you want to have everybody ready before the stretch ahead. And, you hope that everyone comes out of Four Nations healthy, which at this point, it looks like that's going to be the case, assuming Harley and Jake don't play.
It looked like Marchman's visor. I was just going to say Marchman's visor. Do you guys remember when, like, when you were a youth and you couldn't wear a visor, there was the visor cage combo?
Yep.
That's what I used to wear when I was younger. That's what Marchman's look like. It's just such a weird. I'm not sure why he opted for that over the bubble. I'm curious to ask him or get some people asking him that, but it's a weird look for him.
I think that's the perfect look for you, Sam. That seems just. I got a visual of it, and it just seems like it'd be awesome. Leah,
big black ear guards.
Yeah, that even makes it better. Leah, did you have a chance? You only here a short time. Did you have a chance to talk to Mikael Granlund by any chance? When he got here?
Very little. I think I've talked to him like once, but seems so far, at least from Four Nations and from our conversations, it seems like a positive move. He's an easy guy to talk to. Also, I know the Finns can be a little on the shyer side, but I haven't found him to be like that at all.
Yeah, I was curious only because I've seen him do a couple interviews over this stretch that they have going on here, and he seems like a matter-of-fact guy. It's kind of the way that he plays, and obviously he's playing great or played great in this tournament. So I just wanted to have an opportunity. I think we're going to go back and we're going to look at that move that Jim and Mark Janko and those guys made here. And if things all go the direction that we think it is, I think we're going to look back at that particular move and think that was probably one of the better things that was done at this time of the year.
I totally agree. I've seen a lot of commentary, especially kind of relating this to the Tanev move. It just feels like, Jim just knows a little more than the rest of us do, as he obviously should in his job, but he just finds the right missing piece. That's why he's been so successful. And I don't think it takes too long for us to see that. And I mean, Granlund's played a couple games, and it's just what he's done in this tournament that you can kind of tell, oh, this might be the exact piece that they were missing and they needed. So I'm really excited for them to start playing again and really get a better look at him.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if you guys saw Josh Clark, I think, was the one who wrote it for the Stars website. He wrote a really good piece on Granlund this week. I had no clue how much he had played against the Stars. Like, he was against them in multiple playoff series, in the Winter Classic, been in the Central Division almost his entire career. It's a really cool story. I suggest go check it out. But he just seems like the right fit. I think Leah said it perfectly.
Interesting. You mentioned a story that Leah writes, and in this case, I wanted to bring up one that she wrote last week, which was something that Luddy, you've been talking about a fair amount, is the impact and so far the success or failure or somewhere in between of Victory Plus and Dallas going to that model for the Stars TV broadcast. And Leah, you had an update in the morning news, which you can still go if you go to the Dallas Morning News website, or you can even use the Sports Day Talk app. That's also a fun little feature to read some of your sports articles, or all of them, in fact. What was, based on your, I don't want to take away your thunder of it, so from your piece, what did you glean from all that?
Yeah, I actually was talking to Brad Alberts about this after, and I think the response to the story kind of sums it up perfectly. When the story published online, everybody was saying this has been the best thing that they ever could have done. I love this, some minor glitches, but it's great. Then about 3 days later, it ran in print, and I got all these angry emails from people saying, my TV won't rewind, like it doesn't work or whatever. So I think that kind of I think overall, I feel like it's been a positive. And I think that's how the Stars feel. But again, that's a certain demographic. I think there's a certain demographic that maybe is still struggling with it a little bit and has some thoughts on it. But in all, I mean, I talked to Brad, I talked to Neil Gruninger, who's the A Parent Media co-CEO, and we just talked a little bit about, you know, how it's been working, kind of what numbers they've been seeing. Overall, the viewership is up, but not as much as Brad wanted it to be. But you know, he says is still a work in progress. The viewership is much younger than it was, and that was an audience they were really trying to target. About 40% is now aged 18 to 25. So overall, it's kind of going as they expected. I think the glitches and the technology are pretty limited. The biggest complaints I've seen were not being on Samsung. That's been resolved, and then a little bit of a delay on the broadcast. They said they're working on that too. So you know, it was a very new thing that they're trying, and I think for the most part it's been a success, and it's brought them what they hoped, and getting Stars games to more fans in this market, and that's exactly what's happening.
Well, do you think it's been as successful as the fans? I mean, obviously it's the price points, right?
Why are you doing this, Owen? Do you want me to say something that's going to get me in trouble again? Why do you do this?
You like talking about it.
Why don't you ask Sam?
This is not tech savvy.
Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, Sam, come on.
No, I've liked it a lot. I think the way Leah put it is perfect. It's better than it was. It is not perfect, but it is better. Fans are no longer completely unable to find games, which was the main issue, right? You know, there's some few things they're working out. I know Luds gets stuck in ads and really wants to get out of those ads, which is probably what he's not trying to say right now. But so far, I've really liked it, and I love the fact that it's more accessible than it was before. I think that's the biggest issue we had.
You know, when we first came here, we were very fortunate, and there was a place called Cowboys, and you know, bar restaurant kind of place, and we were able to hang with those guys, and we got to see them a lot and lunches and things like that. But I feel like ever since watching Victory Plus, I know Emmett Smith better now than I've ever known him all the years.
Blackjack table, 10 minutes.
You got it.
All right, up next, let's talk a little more Stars and Four Nations here on the DLLS podcast with Leah.
Speaking of Leah, I'm not sure if you've heard of Ice Shaker yet, but we have the perfect guest, passionate sports fan in your life. You know, you could have heard it, Ice Shaker. Ice Shaker is now officially licensed with the NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA, MLB, and makes the ideal gift. Created and used by the Gronkowski brothers, Ice Shaker has sold over 1 million bottles. They've changed the game with these workout bottles. Kitchen grade stainless steel that won't absorb odor like the plastic bottles do, and they stink with them little ones. Patented twist agitator that breaks up powders but is silent when you shake it instead of that annoying ball. The agitator works as a strainer as well, and Leah, also, it makes a great tailgating cup for mixing drinks. Now, all them college games that you go to. Order your team-branded bottles today at iceshaker.com and use the code ALLCITY25 for 25% off your order. Ice Shakers. It's supposed to be a serious read.
Yeah, try to look at that hat and be serious about it. But let's talk about Saturday Neon. Started by two college buddies, Saturday Neon makes officially licensed collegiate logo LED neon signs, perfect for your home, office, dorm room, fan cave, or bar. Check out their new essentials collection featuring almost 50 of the biggest schools across the country and counting for only $75. Check out their Texas A&M, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State signs. Unlike traditional neon, these LED signs won't break or shatter, but still give you that classic uniform glow that you know and love. LEDs last up to 100,000 hours, so you'll be enjoying your sign for years to come. Super easy to install using the provided hardware or with 3M command strips. And of course, low voltage, they don't get hot and are always safe to the touch. It's a perfect gift for any holiday season, maybe even Flag Day. Head over to SaturdayNeon.com. Use the code DLLS for 10% off your favorite sign. Sam can't keep it together. Luddy,
Look at this guy.
That tinsel. We lost him entirely.
I lost it in the post game when he put the beer hat on. This is even better.
What we need to
do
is you need to have that hat on every time you're going to say something that might be critical of the Dallas Stars. So
fair.
It'll sort of balance a lighthearted giggliness with something serious.
Are you talking about man-on-man in their own zone stuff?
Yeah,
there you go.
Exactly.
Trying to get me in there again?
I believe that they are going to crush these guys tonight.
Before I was going to ask you something about the Four Nations. Before you do, I thought Steve Spott, who we spoke with today in our scrum, had an interesting line about how critical the coaching staff is of their own team. And they had to sort of be reminded, hey, they're a pretty good hockey team playing very good hockey, top 3 in the league. And as far as record goes, yet I think if you polled all 4 of us, we could point out 2, 3, or 4 different things that they could improve on. Did you get that sense as well?
Totally. I really liked what he said too. I think he said, like, you know, I go home and my wife tells me, remember, you're top 3 in the league right now. And he says, oh, like, are we really? I keep forgetting that. And it's a fair point, because so much has happened this season. Like, even going from the start in training camp, from, you know, Robertson's surgery to, you know, Maverick being out to start the year, to Pete having his surgery, to all the injuries in the season. I mean, to them not being able to score goals like they were last year. Just so many things happening. The power play, like, it feels like they're not a top 3 team in the league, but that's what I think is most exciting about them. Like, there are so many things that have gone wrong, and they're still in this position at this time of the year. And I think we all feel like there's another level to this team. And maybe last year that level was reached a little bit too early and they ran out of gas in the playoffs. But if they're continuing to build at the right time, I mean, that's what you need to go all the way. So I liked how he put it into perspective.
I just want you guys to know, as soon as Leah just mentioned Steve Spott's name, the sun came out on the deck out here. I am not making it up. The sun came out.
Over watching us. Hey, I have a quick question before I forget. Leah, how much coffee do you drink, or caffeine?
So I was not a coffee drinker until I started covering the hockey playoffs. I did not like coffee. And then I was so, like, delirious and exhausted last spring that I started drinking coffee, and now I drink it maybe like 3 to 4 days a week. So
Okay,
I'm not like a big caffeine person, but when I need it, I drink it.
I've there's been days where I've seen, and this should be put on our show, I've seen Leah at practice or morning skate, then I see her posting from an SMU basketball game, and then I see her at the game at that night, and I get tired just thinking of that. So I figured you had to be doing something to be able to stay up, or I'm just real soft, which we already know.
No, I'm
Probably both.
I don't know how I'm 24 years old. That's how I do it. And I know you're young too, Sam, but in a couple of years, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it anymore.
And compared to these guys, I mean, everybody's young.
Everybody's young. We're all
that's very true.
But yeah, it's a grind. I love it. But yeah, last night I was in Fort Worth at a Tech basketball game, and then turned it around to go to practice this morning. So I get a lot of miles on my car.
Was it difficult when you were going back to your dual coverage? Was it difficult during the early part of the hockey season to keep focused on the Stars when you were doing so much SMU football travel?
Oh, it's so tough. And like, I feel a lot of like guilt, pressure, whatever about it. Cause I know, if I'm not there, we're not covering the Stars, and I want them to get the coverage they deserve. And I want people to be able to read about them. But SMU went to the college football playoff this year. Like, I can't ignore that to go cover a random November game on a Tuesday, Yeah. We know, Sam. But yeah, I mean, yes, I just saw that. I was not born when the Stars won the cup. I was not. Yes, but it was tough. I think it was good being around in camp. It felt like it was a good time of the year to miss. Now it's getting a little weird because SMU might make the NCAA tournament, and obviously the playoff race is heating up. So it's finding a way to balance the two. And going to Finland really helped too. I felt like I got to stay kind of connected through that trip. So it's a lot of back and forth and trying to, watch press conferences I'm not at, watch games, remotely, whatever. But we make it work.
So I'm going to ask you about that in our Diehard questions, because so I don't want to spoil that. Otherwise, your trip to Finland would certainly be something on top of the list. Let's ask the whole panel this. We'll start with Leah, but I want to go all the way around. We have not had a show since last Friday, and there have since been some very big hockey games in the Four Nations tournament. So as we get ready for tomorrow's final, Canada-US, which we're going to do a post-game show in lieu of our regular podcast, Leah, what are your thoughts about the Four Nations tournament?
I love it. I think it's been so fun. I think all-star games are good in concept, but poorly executed. And this gets rid of all of the bad of it. I mean, it's gotten me so excited for the Olympics. I plan to be watching tomorrow. The beginning of that US-Canada game was like a moment I will never forget. And I think the injuries, I get the concern about that, but like overall, it seems like it's worth it, even if a few guys get hurt here and there, and the players seem to like it. And that's kind of what matters most.
Luds?
I'd say, I think it's been great. Obviously, the U.S. and Canada, and we're looking forward to that. Obviously, I sent Billy Guerin a message after that.
Name dropper.
Yeah, well, I did, and what I said is, I feel like this hockey team of his or theirs has brought the country together. It just seems like there's people that are acknowledging the game more than probably just being the casual watcher. And then I also wonder what do you do to replicate this? I mean, is the All-Star game going to be, the All-Star game has got a bit of a downslide going anyways, right? So I wondered if they would ever do anything, different, or I don't know how you bring the All-Star game anywhere near what's going on here. I do say that I think I'd like to see some of the other players play also. I'd like to see Ovechkin and, all the rest of the guys playing an event like this, not just the 4 countries.
That's an interesting question. And Sam, I want your thoughts on the 4 nations as well. But as we talked about, we know that the World Cup of Hockey is coming back in 2028. They're hopeful it'll be an every 4-year experience so that it will be 2 years between a World Cup of Hockey and then the Winter Olympics. They've already committed to the next 2 Winter Olympics. So we're going to have 6 years in a row of, well, not in a row, but every 2 years of best on best international play, which is fantastic. But what about those in between years? Are we going to see some sort of NHL All-Star thing? Or like Luddy said, do you turn it into like a 4 nations where you have USA, Canada, and then like Europe, North and South, or somehow to get those other team players in? And obviously at some point, Russia needs to be involved. We'll keep away from the political landscape part of it, but that's a big deal too.
Yeah, I think the thing for me is if they do an all-star game in between those, it's easier to swallow knowing that it's in between a bunch of amazing international hockey events. It's a little more dreadful, I'll use that word, when it's every year and you're like, oh great, this is what I have to look forward to next February as well. When it's just a fun thing and you got another World Cup of Hockey or another Olympics coming up the next year, I think that'll make it a lot easier. But in terms of the 4 nations, I have loved every second of it. And I love the chaos of emergency players. I love that people think Canada is cheating and then the US is cheating. And then I love it all. I think it's all great for the sport. One thing I heard, I forget where I heard it, that I thought was really important was the US is a country so big in football, so big in basketball, that we need events to get excited about hockey. And that's just how it is. We need big events. We need the 1980 Miracle team. We need the World Cup of Hockey teams. This is that team that's getting people into hockey. I think it was like 4.4 million people watched that US-Canada game. And as Leah said, the first 11 seconds, that's what people will remember about this tournament. No matter what happens tomorrow, I think that's what people will think. And this tournament is one of those weird things where Jeff Merrick said it doesn't have a history and it doesn't have a future, right? This is probably it. So in 20 years, when someone's looking back at this tournament, they're not going to remember all the details, but they're going to remember, oh, that was that tournament where 3 people fought in the first 11 seconds and that crazy thing. That's why I think it's big for this sport. And that's why I think it's huge for our country.
Do you guys think there'll be any pushback from owners just because we're seeing some of these top superstar players have injuries? And
yes,
and I'm just curious about that. That's the one thing about the All-Star game is, there's nobody getting hurt at an All-Star game. The only thing getting hurt there is their liver. That's usually the only thing.
Pride.
Yeah, right. But I mean, I'm just wondering if there will be any conversation about, these guys getting hurt. And again, I just think that there should be times where your best players need some time off and you lean on them all year long and you want them to be in all these events because that's how they sell the game. But do we wear them down to the point where injuries occur more often?
Well, and I think that's probably the reason why you don't do it every year. And maybe you do sprinkle in an all-star game here and there, because I mean, those conversations have to be coming, especially after the statement the Bruins put out today with McAvoy and just the shade they're throwing at USA Hockey and the medical staff. I'm sure there are people upset about that, and it's going to impact them in the next couple of weeks here and months or however long it is. So I think if you're not doing it every year, maybe the conversations die down and it's a little easier to bring it back every few years. But yeah, I mean, I agree with the argument of your best players need a rest too, and it'll be interesting to see what it looks like when they all come back in the next few weeks.
They should just do an all-star cruise and maybe have a shuffleboard tournament or something like that while they're out there. I mean, there'll be nobody pulling a grinder and saying I can't go on that one. They'll get everybody to participate.
I wanted to ask you guys about the comment. Let's go to Leah on this first, because we talked about this last week. The idea that maybe a Four Nations or something like this needs to happen pre-season, meaning in September, so that even if there are injuries, you could have players rehabbing and still get back for, they say, the second half of the season or so and into the playoffs. But Sam, to your point earlier, I think that this timing was brilliant, because it's after the Super Bowl. So you had all these great moments. It's obviously USA Canada was probably the pinnacle of it, but Sweden Finland was fantastic too. And that's a big rivalry. The fact that they didn't get washed over the next day because of an NFL weekend or a playoff game or whatever. And if anything, going up against the NBA All-Star weekend was even a bigger gift, because because the Four Nations isn't an All-Star game, right? It's completely different. And so you have people comparing All-Star, which is always tough to create any sort of competitiveness to, versus the most competitive tournament you can create. And I just think that the people that made the decision to do it now versus in September, I know it condenses the schedule, but Leah, I think the timing couldn't have been better.
I agree. I think for putting it in September, to me, just feels like you have this really exciting tournament, and then you have the beginning of a hockey season that like a lot of people just still aren't going to care about. And yeah, they might care for the first week, but then you got to get them through the next however many months until you get to playoffs. Like if you put it where it is right now, and people can stay, in it until the end of the season. And yeah, in this country, you just can't compete with football. I understand there's 3 other countries in this tournament, but it's not even worth trying. The college football, NFL, they're going to still get better viewership. So I think the timing was perfect.
We have more to talk about and diehard questions next here on the DLS Dallas Stars podcast. But first, boy, do we have some things to share with you. First of all, congratulations, as Luds is pointing directly to that QR code, which is the easy way to find our diehard sign up. I want to thank everybody. We sold out the first ever DLS Stars watch party, which is coming up at the later stages. I believe it's March 26th. Stars at Edmonton Oilers at Cosm in, was it 90 minutes? I think we sold out our ticket allotment. So Sam, John, Luds, and I will all be there, and our GM Ben, and then a bunch of diehards to watch the Stars and the Oilers play in the dome of Cosm, which we were there. I was just there for the Mavs show, and it was great, but I can't wait to see this with a hockey game. So thank you to your diehards. No surprises there, but we have
Drinks
a couple
are on Ben.
Yes. Drinks. And I believe part of the tickets he bought gets him an appetizer too.
Yeah.
And then I got a burger and fries. It was delicious. They had some, my son and I got some churros. You can dip in chocolate sauce. Always a big fan of that. Sweets are my thing. Yeah. Anyway, other things to talk about, diehards. Well, limited time right now. We have an introductory offer because of Rangers spring training. You can get your first year and all the perks of being a diehard for just $4 a month, just $48 for your first year. That is a low introductory rate that will not be here for very long. And obviously, you get 20% off events like the watch party at Cosm. You get the access to the Diehards only Discord lounge, which, yep, we're going to have your questions for Lee in a minute. Plus, you get a free t-shirt of your choice and 20% off all other merch. And speaking of merchandise, we have a new drop. St. Patrick's Day, All City, including the DLLS little, I think that's a shamrock with a longhorns and it looks like a
how'd they get Luds on the back of that jersey? They got Lud's picture right on the back of that shirt there in the beer glass.
Yeah, Luddy's he's the professional when it comes to this. He can do a St. Patty's Day all day and still be functional, unlike many of the folks that don the green. But if you want to get a really cool St. Patty's Day shirt, which would match the hat, go to alldls.com. Oh, fantastic. All right.
Oh man.
Is there a hockey shirt there?
Whose hockey shirt?
Did I see a hockey shirt, like a hockey player on there? The little leprechaun carrying a hockey stick or anything?
I think it's just St. Patty's Day sitting in a beer stein.
I got to get with our guy that's making up these shirts.
Yeah, you need to talk to Eric. See what
He's
you can
mad
come
at
up
you.
with.
Andrew's watching. Andrew's watching right now. He'll be
That's
on it,
why.
Sam.
Is there anything that either of you two want to ask Leah before we get to Diehard's questions? Nothing?
No, let her deal with these people now.
Okay.
I'm excited for Die Hard.
So, Leah, in case
I don't
you
wanna
didn't
take away.
know, we actually have a segment that we do periodically on the show called That Damn Discord Channel with Luds. And he ends up being the focal point of questions, hypotheticals. It gets really silly. This is a little bit tamer than that, but we're going to hit you with what they have. And of course, within good taste. And I thought one of the interesting ones to start it off came from Tyler, who writes, how do you balance being a reporter and presenting the facts and the inevitable pull towards rooting for the players / people you and like as a fan?
Yeah, that's the hardest part of the job, I think, a lot of the time. And I think I haven't really struggled with it too much because I've covered a lot of teams that I didn't have personal connections to earlier on, like covering high school football. We'd cover a couple hundred schools, and that was fine. You want everyone to be happy because they're kids, but I found it to be hard during the Stars playoffs because I had gotten so invested in the team and been around them for so much of the season. And, they get so close 2 years in a row. And yeah, it's people that you talk to every day. And it also really determines your own career and your own success. Like, especially for me, we cover the team on the road in the playoffs. So we want, you got a question, Lutz?
I have a question. Go ahead. Finish your thought. I just want to get on the board.
But yeah, I think that it's hard because, for our business does better when the team does better. So yes, there's obviously we have some bias, I guess, a little bit towards the teams that we cover. We know them the best, but when bad things happen, we have to cover that too. So it's being able to keep yourself at a professional distance. But yeah, it's certainly a challenge.
The chair would like to recognize the distinguished gentleman from Wisconsin.
Oh, I just wanted to be in the queue. I didn't want to jump the line or anything, but
no, go right ahead.
Okay, so Leah, here's my question. When you go in to do, I don't know if you call them scrums or whatever you call them with the Dallas Stars players, who is your favorite interview and who is the hardest one?
Ooh,
the hardest one getting anything out of?
Jake is my favorite.
I just want to know if you're going to answer it honestly.
I'll answer it honestly. Jake is my favorite. I feel like he's been the easiest for me to talk to from the beginning, just the most approachable. He just gives great answers and nice guy. I like talking to Wyatt too. The hardest for me, Jamie's definitely up there. Just because
is there anybody even close to him? Is anybody close to him?
Jamie's not around a lot. Like, he's not in the locker room a whole lot, and maybe in the playoffs a little more we talk to him, but it doesn't feel like we've talked to him that much this season. Honestly, I haven't, at least personally. I wouldn't say I really approach him one-on-one very often unless I really need something. But even in a scrum, you hope it's a good day. So we talked to him after.
You know what you just say when some other idiot asks you that same question? You just tell him Jamie Benn does his talking on the ice, and period. End of story.
Yeah.
Well,
he's a good captain. They love him. That's all that matters.
If you look at the chat, T Farmer just wrote, Luds stepping all over my question. LOL. Thanks, Luds. And then I believe that's sticking your tongue out. So in the chat, in the questions from the diehards, T Farmer asked that basically who's your favorite player to interview and why? And we also had a couple of similar ones because Sooner Fan 4321 asked favorite player to talk to. Sooner Fan also said DLS Stars hosts power rankings. So if you really want to cause trouble, do you want to power rank the DLS Stars show?
Sure. Sean's not here, so we're gonna not include Sean.
No, put him at the
bottom.
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 Sean's in Hawaii.
Bottom.
Hey, Sean's in Hawaii, Leah.
Okay, that's
Say
fine.
whatever you'd like about him.
I agree.
I had never met Luds before, but the hat automatically you just rose the rankings.
Get a
with
Miller
that,
Lite.
Owen and Sam, you guys are great. You're gonna.
Oh, that's so nice. Luddy,
You
should
get
be
bees.
number
You're
one.
adequate. You're adequate. That's
Yeah,
what I
we're
feel too. I
Happy to
can't.
be
I
here.
couldn't disagree with that at all, Leah. I agree. On that.
Okay, in that sort of same
Sun
vein,
just came out again.
yep,
just
you're out.
popped out.
Schmitty asked, Leah, who is the funniest star you've talked with or interviewed? The one who could make you spit out your drink at any moment.
Tyler Sagan. I'm sure there are other funny guys in the locker room, but like anytime that's who comes to mind. I mean, it's weird not having him around. It's going to be very fun when he's hopefully back in the playoffs.
Luds, I Love Misty just chimed in that you're the only host to do a post-game show while playing a game.
I was coaching
That's true.
Yes, you were on the bench.
and I
but
blew it.
Yeah,
Lud's
he couldn't
literally
get his
went-
equipment to work, but I'm sure his fiance said that before too. But he just couldn't get anything working that day.
Well, you actually hopped off the bench for a shift in the middle of answering a question from Sam.
That was
so it was
awesome.
fantastic.
That's because one of our younger guys couldn't get it done. No, actually, it wasn't. It was Belfort. But he was
There
off.
you go.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to our next
That's
question. This one is from Sabalb, SBALB. So take your guess. Do you think the publications like the Dallas Morning News will ever go back to having a full-time starship? I don't know what that is, but Stars beat writer, like one that travels on all road trips, or is that something that time has passed?
I think that it would take a pretty dramatic shift in the market and the demand. And I think we say this a lot, and I don't always have the platform to say this directly to Stars fans. Like, we want to cover the team. Like, it's not a choice that we're making because we don't want to, and we don't want to travel. It's the demand is there for certain teams and not others. And I know that Stars fans are like diehards, as you call them. I mean, they are a passionate fan base, but it's a smaller one, and we're a business, and decisions have to be made because of that. I hope it gets to a day where that's possible. And I think if this team goes and wins a Stanley Cup, maybe the conversations are different, but where things are right now, I think you're seeing decisions like this being made at papers across the country. It's not just us. And, even the Associated Press is changing its hockey coverage. It's a tough situation. And, we're going to still travel in the playoffs. We're going to still cover them as much as we can, but I wouldn't expect it unless something changes.
Guys, see GM Ben in the chat. Leah, you are welcome on DLS Stars anytime you want. That's our boss, by the way.
Thank you.
Not like he's trying to recruit you or anything. I love it. Sam's sitting over there going, wait a minute. Next question actually involves Sam. Sorry, Sam, but I Love Misty 1985, our favorite. What's the best? Now, Leah, you may not know this, but Sam has a lot of nicknames already on the show. The toilet flush is only one of them. There are many, but one of the more recent ones is the Samboni to go along with Commando Sam, Hot Sam, you name it. And before I ask you the question, I have to do a quick TV sign off. So thanks to everyone who joined on our television platforms. Make sure to like and subscribe here on the pod and check out alldlls.com. Okay, now that we've done that, Plungio Sam is the latest from Burned Oils, by the way. So it's a long-standing joke. We'll fill you in on it later. But the question from I Love Misty for Leah is, what's the best Samboni story during your times together in the press box?
In the press box is tough because we don't sit near each other in the press box.
You got to really be loud.
Yeah.
Plus, you can't hear over Owen just talking the entire time, so nobody else gets to hear.
I can definitely hear Owen from my
I'm
seat.
not
I don't
quiet.
know if I can hear Sam.
But you actually sit closer to each other than we do, Leah.
Yeah,
by
but
one
I still hear you. There's definitely some space. I don't know. I get caught in between Taylor and Heike, and that's all I hear.
Okay, there's the follow-up, Luds, because Leah is sitting right next to Heike, right? You and Taylor over there.
You
So
never listen to Michael then?
Is my game talking down?
Do you have any good Heike stories from the press box?
I not from the press box, but I did love the day that Heike showed up to practice wearing a t-shirt under whatever his sweater was of his like dogs and then socks of his cats, but then he wouldn't let me take a picture and tweet it. So I was
Oh, he didn't want to share.
he didn't want to show the rest of the world. So
All right. The next one we have is what has been this is from Jay Krill. What has been your favorite Dallas Stars moment, either as a writer or before? And I guess the follow-up for me would be, how much Dallas Stars moments did you have before coming here?
the only Dallas Stars moment that I really remember was like, I think they were playing the Capitals in some game back in like 2015 or 2016 because I don't know what year it was, but I remember watching Tyler Seguin with the Stars when I was like a kid, and that's the only thing I really remember about the Stars. So not a lot before. My favorite memory with them now, I mean, definitely going to Finland was the highlight. Like that was up there for me. I know you said there might be a question about that, but
There is. I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at your answer,
I
but
know.
I have no idea what Mike's doing.
I saw the flyby of what appears to be a Luddy plunger, and that may be for the Plungio Sam nickname. Look at that, Luds.
Why do you have that within reach? Are you in the bathroom?
This is a high-end plunger. This is high-end.
I think he has an accomplice, but that's just my hunch. That he may have a backstage.
I keep all my props nearby.
No. So, Leah, that's actually the one from D-Star's Diehard. What was your favorite part of the Finland trip? And they wrote, mine was the Joker's game with the singing.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, so many things. I really liked, I got to go to lunch with Rope one day. And we just like went to one of his favorite restaurants in Tampere, which was so cool. And like, he's someone that I hadn't really connected with a whole lot. Just in the past year, I just found he was, a little shyer, harder to talk to, but we just talked about like non-hockey for a lot of it. And I was telling about my family that lives in Europe, and he was telling me he had traveled there on vacation, things like that. So that was really a really cool experience. And I think we were talking about this today at Stars practice a little bit, that he's one that I think has really opened up this year, just from, maybe doing a little more media because of all this international, the trip and Four Nations and things like that. So that was like a moment where I felt like, oh, this trip is definitely worth it. So, but overall, awesome trip. Watching the games too was incredible, and something I will never forget.
When you were there, did you get a chance to do all the things? Like, for example, I know Heike said he didn't want to jump into the Baltic Sea as part of that cold plunge. Did you get a chance to do that?
I did. Yeah. Robert and I did that together. The NHL actually put on this like really nice tour for all the media that had traveled. And we were on like a boat that had a sauna on it. So we went in the sauna and then jumped into the Baltic Sea.
Wow.
And I like could not breathe because it was so cold. It was just us and the Panthers media. It was so much fun. I did not expect that that's what we were going to do, but I feel like you have to do that when you go. So I did not eat reindeer. That
was my next question.
I should have done it, but I had the salmon soup. We did all the other authentic Finnish things. So it was cool.
Oh, Luddy, you leaned forward. I thought for sure you had something there. Nope.
I was
Just
thinking about
throwing
out a reindeer right there, but I thought, no, that would be inappropriate.
Yeah. Have you ever had reindeer meat, Luds?
No, I have not.
I'd
And
try
I
it.
never plan on it.
No, you wouldn't try it if it was available?
All I see is Rudolph. I can't do it.
Well, yeah, Luds is not risking making Santa Claus mad.
I bet you've had venison though, right?
Oh yeah.
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 I'd be curious if it was similar in consistency, but anyway. That's it for diehard questions. Fellas, is there anything you would like to ask Leah now that the floor is open? It doesn't have to be just Four Nations or Stars or whatever you want.
I think Sam should lead this off. You're in the same field, Sam. You must have a whole Rolodex. Anybody know what a Rolodex is anymore?
I have a ton of boring.
Leah's way too young for the Rolodex.
Yeah. No, I'll ask you, Leah. What do you think the potential is of this current Stars team, and do you think they still need to add before March 7th?
I mean, I think it'd be great if they can add. I just don't know what they give away. They just don't have a lot of of pieces left. But if they can go out a top 4 defenseman, that'd be great. But I think there's a lot of potential. I mean, as we kind of said before, it feels like they still have room to grow, and that's really exciting. You get back those guys in the playoffs who have been hurt. That's a great time to have them back. So it's kind of hard because it felt like last year's team could have gone all the way, and power play dries up, things don't really work out the right time of year. So hard to predict, but just like last year, I think that this team has the potential to go back to the Western Conference Finals and go further.
That's an interesting thing I've asked both of these guys when it came to what they have left to make a trade.
Mhm.
Would you, if you were handed the keys to the front office of the Dallas Stars, trade away one of the young up and coming Dallas Stars players, meaning a guy like Logan Stankoven, Maverick Bourque, or Leon Bischel, to make a deal? And what level would that have to be for you to do that?
I think I say no, just because I think that they can win with this team. And I think if you're renting a player for 6 months, like, then what? And you're giving away what could be a long future. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of Maverick to really know what and I guess Logan too. I think Bischel you keep. I don't think that you're giving him away, but I feel like you still need to see more from them to know kind of what their potential can be. And I think you regret that decision, especially if you don't win this year. So I don't think it's worth it personally.
Luds, we were talking about this last week he gave away Jim Nill with the first round for the Granlund CC trade. Would you give away another first, or is that starting to get scary when you go 2 first rounders in a row, knowing, as Sean said last week, the Stars prospect pool is not very deep beyond the current young guys in the NHL?
After listening and talking with Mark Janko, yeah, I agree. I think it's hard. For some reason, it's always you, Owen, bringing up Maverick Bourque's name. I don't know why you're throwing him under the bus all the time, but the thing about Maverick, but the thing is, the reason that I would be leaning away from that is only because what we've seen from the beginning of the year to now. You know what I mean? Like, we're seeing him every game be more relevant, and every game do more of what we had heard. And obviously it was us talking about it, but we were talking about Maverick Bourque in the first month of the season because of everything that we heard. We were hearing he was this player. And I think sometimes we compared it to Logan. Logan came up and Logan just plays the same way every single night. But I don't know, there's a couple of guys I could think of, but you're not going to it's not going to be a 1-for-1. You're going to have to throw something else in there. So, but then again, there's not just one team here looking to improve. That's the thing, is what do other clubs I look at Carolina, I look at that team when they picked up, Rantanen and not working out the way that they thought right now. And he may be, but are they looking, it seems to me that they're like a team that wants to be all in. And so when you have a team like that may be willing to, maybe there's 1 or 2 players right now that everybody looks at and says, we want this guy. But now all of a sudden, and that's good for whatever team giving away because you drive the price up. I just don't know if Dallas would be willing to move anybody else, or is there anybody else right now that they think could put them over the top?
Yeah. That's the interesting point. And I think Jenko literally said, it is worrying and concerning the lack of assets that we have right now and how much we've given away. So that's something, just to hear that right from him was kind of eye-opening for me.
Yeah, I wonder though, Leah, I'm going to ask you this because I think this is a bit of a slow play from the front office. I have this hunch that they're not done, that they're going to do something else. I'm not sure what it is, and I'm not sure how they get it, but the player that we've talked about, when you and I were talking about this today, is Matt Dumba. And what does his future with the Dallas Stars look like in your mind?
I don't know. Not great. I mean, not great. They signed, was he on a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal?
2-year. This is the first of 2. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you buy him out. I don't know that he has a lot of trade value. I don't know. I mean, it felt like with the Dumba and Lyubushkin deals, like, one wasn't going to work at least, and that kind of happened. And it's been great how Lyubushkin's worked out. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'd be open to getting rid of him if it's an option, but I don't know who's going to really take that contract right now. So you hope that it can turn around, but it hasn't been the best start.
See, Luddy was just enjoying not being the one asked to be on the spot for a change. So that was nice.
Well, but the thing is like now when you pick up CC and then you've got, what would have happened? Well, again, I don't think anything would have been done if Nils wasn't out for the season. I don't know if CC would be here, but he is. And so it'll be, and now with Bischel seeming to fit more into what they're looking for. And then I look at Bischel, and if he continues to do what he's doing, and then maybe get pushed forward to do a little bit more if they feel comfortable with doing that, is he can be a piece that you want in the playoffs. If you've got a confident player and we can, I think he's got a couple more gears to go as far as the physicality. And I think right now, maybe we're not seeing that because he doesn't want to put himself in the box. And, just finding that balance of where you can be a physical player and not take penalties. But I think he could be an important player. And I think he's going to be durable. And I think you need that durability when you go into the playoffs because we've seen that this year. So, you got a young guy that, what is he, 6'6" or whatever. And it's like sometimes he almost feels like it's bad hitting a guy too hard, which I would tell him, don't feel bad about it. But I think it's more about going to the box than it is anything else for him. And he doesn't want to be that guy right now.
Because he got a couple of those right away, a couple of those penalties we call big guy penalties, ones where it didn't really look like anything illegal, but the referee reacted because of the big size disparity. And Lee, I don't know if you caught any of our Mark Janko interview with the Stars assistant GM. It was wonderful. I highly encourage those of you that haven't seen it to go find it on our YouTube channel or on the podcast audio platforms. But he basically said in his mind, and he wasn't speaking for the whole organization, but in his mind that Bischel was here to stay. He didn't play any games during the break, even though he was sent down for cap reasons, basically because he was told to rest up. And seems like with the Heiskanen injury and, of course, Lundqvist, that they're going to lean a little bit more on Bischel than maybe they thought they would.
Yeah.
All right. That was my 2 cents on that. All right. Anything final before we let Leah go? And honestly, we will promise, Leah, we have to get you in studio and have another get together because it's a lot more fun to sit around where we can see each other and not have to sort of have that pregnant pause between, is somebody going to say something? Because I can tell a lot quicker when one of these two yokels is going to speak when I'm in person with them.
That would. That sounds great, though. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah,
thanks, Leah.
Really appreciate your time. We're thrilled to see where this is going because I think this is the kind of season that can be not just fun for the short term, but maybe over the long haul. But then again, we thought that maybe last year was that one. Yeah. For me, I guess my final thought would be to throw at you is I feel like this team is both better and worse than it was last year.
Yes.
And in different areas. I think the goaltending has taken a step forward, and this is nothing against Scott Wedgwood, but I think Jake is better than he was and healthier. I think that adding Granlund and the forward depth they have now, at the beginning of the season, I wasn't necessarily sold on that. Getting Marchment back, Sagan is a question mark, but I don't think they absolutely need Tyler Sagan back with the Granlund add to be competitive. The big question is what's going on with the blue line, but it does feel like this team can do something.
It does. I completely agree that they're better and worse in different ways, but they've shown over the course of 2 seasons that they can be good in a lot of different areas. So some of the things that struggled last year are better and vice versa. So, we know that they have that in them. I think a lot of it's going to start and end with Jake, and he's obviously been great this year. So he can keep that up. That's great. And the blue line's kind of the question, but they've got some good pieces there. So we'll see if they get Miro back.
Well, guys, I will wrap this one up and say, Leah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on today. We'll do it again very, very soon. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks, guys.
All right. That's Leah Assimakopoulos. Sam, there will be a test on that later, along with Leah and Luds and Sam and our producer, John, and the high-end plunger. I've been Owen Newkirk. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to check out, like, and subscribe on YouTube. We will be doing a post-game show tomorrow right after the Four Nations final. 9:45, 10 o'clock. All right, wrap it up. Luds, USA or Canada wins tomorrow night?
Oh, U.S. 4-1, 4-2.
Leah,
US.
Sam.
U.S.
We're a
goaltending
bunch
number
of
one.
homers. U.S. sweep. Tomahawk City. Thanks, guys.
Flush them away.